I was standing in my own bedroom doorway, staring at a pair of men's dress shoes that weren't mine, while my wife's voice drifted through the closed bedroom door along with a man's laugh I didn't recognize. My flight home had landed 3 hours early. She had no idea I was there. Everything I'd built over 8 years was about to collapse, and all I could think about was whether to kick that door open or walk away and pretend. I'd never seen anything. I chose option 3. I pulled out my phone and started gathering evidence. Welcome to Cheating Fact Real Accounts of Deception and Justice. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I'm here sharing true stories of betrayal and the paths people take to reclaim their lives. Today's story is mine, and it's about how one moment of discovery led me down a path I never imagined taking. My name is Derek, and 6 months before that moment in my doorway, life looked perfect on paper. Vanessa and I had been married for 8 years. We'd met in college, built successful careers, bought a house in a neighborhood we loved. She worked as a senior account manager at a mid-sized marketing agency downtown, and I ran a consulting firm that kept me traveling about twice a month. Then Vanessa got promoted to director level. It was a huge achievement, something she'd worked toward for years. I was genuinely proud of her. The promotion meant longer hours, more responsibility, higher stakes. When she started mentioning evening planning sessions with her team 2 or 3 nights a week, I supported it completely. But looking back now, I can see exactly when things changed. It started with small things. She'd come home from these late sessions smelling different, not perfume, but an unfamiliar cologne mixed with her usual scent. Her phone, which used to sit casually on the kitchen counter while we made dinner, was now constantly in her hand or her pocket. Face down. Always face down. When I'd ask about her day, her stories became vague. Vanessa usually loved details. She'd tell me about difficult clients, creative breakthroughs, office drama. But suddenly, her late sessions were just productive or good. Nothing specific. Nothing real. I told myself I was being paranoid. She had a demanding new role. She was stressed. I was projecting my own insecurities onto innocent behavior. Except my gut kept screaming that something was wrong. The breaking point came on a Thursday in early March. I was supposed to be in Chicago until Friday for a client presentation, but they rescheduled last minute to the following week. I caught an earlier flight home, landing around 6 p.m. instead of the next afternoon. I texted Vanessa that I was heading home early. She didn't respond, not unusual if she was in a meeting. I figured I'd surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. I pulled into our driveway around 7:30. Her car was there, which surprised me because Thursday was one of her typical late session nights. The house was lit up. Music was playing that jazz playlist we usually saved for weekend mornings. Intimate and soft. My first thought was that she'd skipped the meeting to surprise me with a romantic evening, not knowing I was coming home early. I walked in quietly, planning to surprise her back. That's when my entire world tilted on its axis. Men's dress shoes. Expensive leather Oxfords, size 11 or 12. Sitting right there by the bedroom door like they belonged there. My heart started hammering before my brain fully caught up. I stood frozen, staring at those shoes like they might disappear if I blink hard enough. The bedroom door was closed. I could hear Vanessa's voice, then a man's voice responding. Comfortable. Intimate. Laughing together. Every instinct screamed at me to kick that door open, to confront them, to see with my own eyes what I already knew in my gut was happening. But something stopped me. Maybe shock. Maybe the part of my brain that was already calculating what came next, already thinking about evidence and lawyers and making sure I protected myself. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and started recording. The shoes. The closed door. The timestamp showing 7:43 p.m. on a night she was supposed to be at work. I documented everything. Then I backed out of my own house as quietly as I'd entered. I sat in my car in the driveway for a full minute, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe, trying to process, trying not to vomit. I drove to a coffee shop, 3 blocks away, and pulled into the darkest corner of the parking lot. That's when I opened our home security app, the camera system we'd installed last year after a neighborhood break-in. Cameras covered the driveway and front entrance. I sat there watching my own front door through a phone screen, feeling like I was having an out-of-body experience. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening to me. At 9:17 p.m., a man walked out. The camera caught him clearly. Tall, well-dressed, probably mid-30s. Then Vanessa appeared in the doorway. They kissed goodbye. Not a quick peck. A long, intimate, comfortable kiss that told me this wasn't the first time. Or the 10th time. He walked to a BMW parked 2 houses down. Smart. Not parking directly in front, and I got a clear shot of his license plate before he drove away. Vanessa closed the door. Through the app, I watched the lights gradually turn off. Our bedroom light. The living room. Like it was just another normal night. I sat in that parking lot until after midnight, running through every memory of the past 6 months, watching them transform in my mind. Every late work session. Every time she'd texted someone while we were watching TV together. Every vague answer about her day. It all looked different now. It all made horrifying sense. Finally, I checked into a hotel. I couldn't walk back into that house, into that bedroom, with the image of those shoes burned into my brain. The next morning, I called in sick to work and started investigating like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. The license plate led me to a name, Cameron Westfield. 20 minutes on LinkedIn told me everything I needed to know. He was the creative director at Vanessa's agency, recently promoted around the same time she was. His profile showed multiple company photos with both of them, always standing just a bit too close. I spent the next 2 weeks living a double life. At home, I acted completely normal. Supportive husband. Asked about her day. Kissed her goodbye in the mornings. All while systematically gathering evidence of her betrayal. Every Thursday, her late session. Night, I'd tell her I had evening meetings or work to catch up on. Then I'd park down the street and watch. Cameron showed up like clockwork at 7. Left around 9. The pattern was consistent, calculated, clearly established over months. I accessed our phone records through our shared account. Hundreds of texts between them. The volume and timing told me everything. Messages at 6 a.m. During lunch, late at night. They were in constant communication. I couldn't see the content of the texts, but I didn't need to. The pattern spoke for itself. The hardest part wasn't the investigation. It was pretending. Coming home to Vanessa every night. Listening to her talk about work while carefully editing out huge chunks of her day. Watching her text him while sitting next to me on the couch. Every kiss felt like a lie. Every "I love you" felt like a knife twisting. But I kept my focus on the endgame. I consulted with a divorce attorney. Documented everything meticulously. Made copies of all evidence in multiple locations. My attorney advised me to gather everything I needed before confronting anyone. Because once people knew I knew, things would get complicated fast. On my 3rd week of surveillance, I decided to look deeper into Cameron's life. Property records showed he owned his condo jointly. He was married. That realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just an affair destroying my marriage. There was another person out there, probably, as clueless as I'd been until 3 weeks ago, whose life was about to implode. I struggled with whether to tell Cameron's wife. It wasn't my responsibility. I had enough to deal with. But I kept thinking about those shoes, that moment of discovery, and how I would have wanted to know sooner. How I wished someone had told me before. I'd wasted months trusting someone who was lying to my face every single day. I found her name through public records, Brielle Westfield. On that 3rd Thursday, instead of just watching from my car, I drove to Cameron's condo while he was at my house with my wife. At 8 p.m., I knocked on Brielle's door. She answered, and I'll never forget the look on her face when I said, "I think we need to talk about your husband and my wife." She knew immediately. That instant recognition in her eyes told me she had suspicions too. Little inconsistencies she'd been pushing down, telling herself she was being paranoid. We sat in her living room, 2 strangers, connected by betrayal, and I showed her everything. The photos, the timeline, the phone records, the security footage of them kissing goodbye on my doorstep. Brielle started crying, but there was anger there too. She pulled out her phone and showed me credit. card statements she'd been questioning, expensive dinners Cameron claimed were client meetings, a hotel charge from a weekend he said he was at a conference, except the hotel was in our city, 20 minutes from both our houses. We compared notes like detectives piecing together a crime. The full picture emerged, uglier than either of us had imagined. This wasn't a spontaneous attraction that got out of hand. They'd been deliberately, methodically lying to both of us for months. Vanessa's late work sessions were real, just not the kind she described. Cameron's business trips were nights at hotels across town. Brielle looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "I want to be there when you confront them. I need to see it with my own eyes." I understood that need completely. We planned it for the following Thursday. I told Vanessa I was going to Chicago again, even threw my overnight bag in the car that morning for authenticity. Instead, I met Brielle at a restaurant near my house. At 7:15 p.m., we watched Cameron's BMW pull up 2 houses down from mine. We gave them 15 minutes to get comfortable, to let their guard down completely. Then we walked up to my front door together. I used my key. We walked in. They were in the living room, sitting close together on my couch with wine glasses, looking exactly like a couple having a relaxed evening at home. The shock on their faces, when they saw us standing there, was almost worth the weeks of pain. Nobody said anything for several long seconds. Vanessa went completely pale. Cameron stood up quickly, looking between Brielle and me with absolute panic in his eyes. "Derek," Vanessa started, but I held up my hand. "Don't," I said quietly. "I know everything. The late work sessions, the hundreds of texts, the hotels. I've known for 3 weeks. I have dates, times, security footage, phone records, everything." Brielle stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. "Cameron, get your things. We are leaving. You can pick up the rest of your stuff when I'm not there." What followed wasn't the dramatic confrontation I'd imagined. It was just messy and sad. Vanessa crying, trying to explain. Cameron attempting to apologize to everyone at once. Brielle standing there furious and heartbroken. And me just feeling exhausted and empty. Cameron left with Brielle. Vanessa and I stood in our living room, the room where she'd been entertaining him just minutes before, and she tried to minimize it, justify it, explain it away. But I'd had 3 weeks to process this. I was done listening to lies. I told her I'd already filed for divorce. I'd already moved my important belongings to storage. I was staying somewhere else, and she had 30 days to figure out her living situation. She tried to reconcile initially, sent long messages about counseling and fixing things and how it was a mistake. But I'd watched her lie to my face for months. I'd seen her kiss another man on our doorstep. Whatever we'd had was irreparably broken. Asterisk asterisk, the aftermath, consequences and justice. Asterisk asterisk. The professional consequences came fast. Brielle reported the affair to their company's HR department. It violated their workplace relationship policy, especially problematic because Vanessa was technically Cameron's superior on several projects. Both of them were placed under investigation. They weren't fired, but they were reassigned to different divisions, essentially killing their career trajectories at that agency. Cameron's marriage ended in divorce. Vanessa eventually left the company, entirely for a position at a smaller firm, a significant step backward in her career. The divorce finalized 4 months ago. It was relatively straightforward, because I had comprehensive documentation and Vanessa knew fighting would only expose everything to more scrutiny. We split assets according to state law, sold the house, and went our separate ways. Brielle and I stayed in touch through the divorce proceedings, offering support as we navigated similar situations. We are not romantic. Neither of us needed that complication. But we developed a genuine friendship born from one of the worst experiences of our lives. She's doing well now, dating someone who actually respects her. As for me, I'm rebuilding. New apartment downtown. Threw myself into work. Rediscovered hobbies I'd neglected. Some days are harder than others. I still think about those shoes sometimes. That moment of discovery that changed everything. But I also know I did the right thing. I gathered the truth methodically, protected my interests, and walked away from a relationship built on lies. The hardest lesson I've learned is that you can do everything right and still have it fall apart because of someone else's choices. I trusted completely. I supported her career unconditionally. I believed in our partnership. But Vanessa made her choices. And those choices had consequences that rippled out further than just our marriage. To anyone watching who's ignoring the warning signs, because confronting the truth is terrifying, trust your instincts. Those small inconsistencies, the changed behavior, the gut feeling that something's wrong, they're usually telling you something important. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. Don't settle for less because facing reality is painful. The temporary pain of discovery is better than years of being deceived. And if you're the one having the affair, know that your partner will find out eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but the truth always surfaces. And when it does, the damage will be far worse than if you'd had the courage to be honest from the start. Those shoes under my bed destroyed my marriage, but they also freed me from a relationship that was already broken. I just hadn't known it yet. Sometimes the worst discoveries lead to the best new beginnings. Thanks for watching Cheating Fact Stories. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Where are you watching from? Have you ever discovered something that changed your life? Your story might help someone else feeling alone right now.